An eagle lay on the ground, wounded and screaming for help. There was no hope of anyone finding it, but what happened next will melt your heart. Eagles are powerful birds of prey. They are evolved and built to survive any kind of situation in the wild. One of their most powerful assets is their beak, which not only helps these birds to pick up their prey and eat them, but is also part of the process of caring for their feathers. Can you imagine what an eagle without a beak would have to face? This was the case with Beauty, the bald eagle who found herself on the hostile end of a poacher's gun. Sometime in 2005, Beauty was gliding through the sky on a scorching afternoon when she landed in a tree to rest and look around. What happened next changed her life forever, but not in a good way. One moment, she was leaning against a tree looking for her next meal, and the next, she was on the ground, slowly dying. A poacher had spotted her and shot her. The bullet felled the bird in an instant, brutally ripping off most of its beak. Eagle hunters are known to kill these birds for sport or capture them for illegal possession. The poacher must have thought Beauty was dead and left feeling proud of his accomplishment. However, the poor eagle was still in terrible pain, and her screams could be heard for miles around. Although she was lucky not to have died, her situation was still tragic, because it would be almost impossible to recover from a broken beak. The chances of the bird surviving without some kind of intervention were slim to none. But fortunately, intervention came in the form of an animal rescue group that spotted her a few days after the incident. The group was walking through the forest when they heard a rustling sound coming from a patch of grass. They stopped short to pay attention, and the noise grew louder. They followed the sound, and when they finally reached the source of the noise, they couldn't believe their eyes. It was the strangest bird they had ever seen, a nearly beakless bald eagle. The poor thing clearly had little energy left, and even its squawks were getting quieter and weaker. They knew they had to help her, so they immediately picked her up and carried her to a place where they could nurse her back to good health. As they drove to the shelter, they all wondered what kind of person could do this to an animal. Unfortunately, they knew that poachers like to hunt in that area and could do nothing to prevent it. As soon as rescuers brought Beauty to the scene, volunteers from the non-profit group Birds of Prey Northwest sprang into action. They knew the poor bird had been starving and couldn't determine exactly how long she had been starving. Knowing she couldn't feed herself, the volunteers needed an alternative way to get some food into her and decided to use a small tube and a liquid nutrient mixture. The rescuers and volunteers were delighted to see that the bird was very receptive to food. It must have been very hungry. When the other volunteers at the shelter heard what happened to the eagle, they were all heartbroken. This was the reason they worked in places like this, because these beautiful birds did not deserve such cruel treatment. They called Beauty the bald eagle and joined her to help her recover. A veterinarian examined Beauty and announced to the group that she would be fine beyond the broken beak. He also noted that it was good that the rescuers had found her before she starved to death. The volunteers continued to care for the injured bird and feed her through probes. When the bald eagle became stronger, they switched to hand feeding with forceps. To the delight of everyone at the non-profit shelter, Beauty was regaining strength and was up and about in no time. However, the team was concerned because her beak showed no signs of healing. After a while, they had to accept her new reality. This meant one thing: Beauty would never again be able to feed herself. That is, she would not survive alone in the wild. The eagle would have to adapt to life in the beakless shelter. If she developed symptoms of depression or started refusing the food provided by the volunteers, she would have to be put down. That was, unless a miracle happened. In an unexpected turn of events, however, Beauty finally got her miracle. Raptor specialist Jane Fink Cantwell could not bear the thought of this bird being euthanized or living a reclusive life. She firmly believed that the eagle was saved for a higher purpose. The fact that it had not died from injury or starvation before it was found meant that it was supposed to survive and thrive regardless. Jane scheduled a meeting with mechanical engineer Nate Calvin of the Kinetic Engineering Group and other scientists to share her idea. Sure, it was crazy, but with the right equipment, they could save Beauty. Jane wanted them to make a prosthetic beak for the eagle. Together with Nate Calvin, a team of engineers and a dentist, Jane was able to make her dream a reality. They spent weeks planning, measuring, and tinkering until they came up with a design for a nylon polymer beak that would be the perfect replacement for the eagle's broken beak. Calvin began developing a new beak using a 3D modeling program. When the design model was ready, he fabricated it with a 3D printer. The new beak looked beautiful, and the team couldn't wait to see it at Beauty. The next day, they prepared to fit the new beak. First, they attached a metal mount that would fit the beak and hold it firmly in place. Then they tried to fit the new prosthesis itself. However, on the first attempt, it did not fit perfectly. Some measurements were off by a few millimeters, and the team had to make adjustments. They made the adjustments as quickly as they could and gave it another try. They were getting close, but it still wasn't quite perfect. Still resilient in their resolve, they fixed a few things and tried again for a third time. Everyone on the team screamed in unison when this time the beak clicked perfectly and stayed still. The eagle shrieked with joy, and this melted the hearts of everyone in the room. Everyone was grinning from ear to ear, happy to see the eagle return to its full glory. All the hard work paid off when they saw how happy Beauty was with her new beak. Sure, it would never be a complete replacement for her natural beak, but this was as close as they could get her to being whole again. The next step was to test if Beauty's new beak was as functional as it was pretty. The scientist brought her some food and watched. Beauty looked at them, expecting them to feed her as usual, but they just looked back at her anxiously. After a few minutes, she slowly inspected the food and carefully opened her beak. When the eagle began to eat, everyone celebrated again. The team members and others in the room were elated when they saw that Beauty could eat, drink, and also groom herself. This was amazing news. Although Beauty could now do almost everything on her own, the new beak was not safe enough for her to return to the wild alone. Still, she was more self-sufficient than ever without the artificial beak. Beauty's success story would also herald a new beginning for body prosthetics for other injured animals. Beauty remained in Jane's care, and their friendship blossomed beautifully. Many people who came to work or visit the Wildlife Center were amazed by the eagle's story and Jane's determination to find a solution. The specialist took to social media to share her best friend's story with the world, hoping to raise awareness about the horrific effects poaching has on innocent wildlife creatures. The raptor specialist was grateful that Beauty got the second chance she deserved after that horrible experience, and encouraged the group of rescuers and volunteers to be on the lookout for other animals in need in the wild. The next Beauty may already be waiting for your help somewhere, but thanks to your determination and compassion, any injured animal will have a second chance at life. What an amazing story! Have you ever heard of prosthetics for animals? What do you think of the team that helped Beauty? Tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.